Hey guys, here today to talk about director Michelangelo Antonioni. This is one of the ultimate Italian directors who emerged in their right booming in 1960, and he just had an incredible 10-year run. I mean, incredible. So many classics that I just really want to cover. In all honesty, there's still a lot more of his filmography I need to crack open, but about 6 or 7 I've seen have stunned me so much that, hey, I got to talk about it. So let's do it. And first off, it's very interesting to note to me that this is perhaps Jack Nicholson's favorite director of all time. I think that's a really cool fun fact. And I can kind of see how as I watch it a little more. I think he almost seems like an introverted, like subconscious of a personality like Jack Nicholson. Like you can tell he's kind of nihilistic, isolated, and he's kind of studying the depths of that, while Jack Nicholson's kind of like a persona of that kind of person. But anyway, into his filmography, we start off in 1960 with the film La Ventura, which translates to English as The Adventure. This is my favorite film of his. So right off the bat, he made his masterpiece. So with his first breakthrough film, this is groundbreaking stuff here. It's really just the ultimate mood piece from start to finish. It has a mood and atmosphere I've really never felt anywhere else. And it's kind of the essence of a mystery that nobody really gives a damn about. It's just like you're just kind of watching these characters drifting in their element, kind of just enjoying their selves. Well, there's always dark situations happening, but there's just such an indifference towards the dark things. They're just more interested in their own immediate pleasures and what they kind of have together. But meanwhile, it's just the way he directs it. It literally foreshadows the way Stanley Kubrick would do. So I think he really laid a framework that Kubrick would lay out, expand upon. He really did it perfect. This is so unique and original. Also, shouldn't compare it in a sense, because this is a little bit more in the moment than Kubrick did. Kubrick gets in the moment, but there's always an intense philosophical realm in Kubrick films. I think that Antonioni hangs out a little more. But really, it's just the light and dark side of nihilism is, I think, what this film is ultimately an expression of. Because nihilism is a very dark thing ultimately. It comes from a place of just wanting to retreat, not get too close to other people. Really, it comes with a bit of an antisocial spark. But the light side of it is the pleasure that can kind of come from just retreating in your mind and just sort of just finding your inner nirvana in a lot of ways. And there's nothing really inherently wrong in living in that. But there can also be a detachment that can come after a while if you just retreat forever and never really engage or just have care about other people. I think it's important to care about people to an extent. But also you can detach yourself in moments too. I think there's nothing wrong with that. And I think this film kind of shows the unhealthy side of all of this. I think that's the ultimate takeaway I get from it all. It's just so much rich texture that is put into every shot and frame that it really just feels like a stunning painting every moment. It really is just a profoundly genius film, I think. And then in 1961, he made Notte. This is also a pretty great one. I need to see it again, honestly, to really absorb its depths. But I can tell you from my one viewing that it really does do a great job of getting into the depths of isolation. I love that opening scene so much. Whenever they're going down that building, just as an extended take, just gradually going up the elevator, just taking in this big city as it goes on. Some could argue these scenes just hover and over. Antonioni really does hover a lot, but when he does it well like this, it's just so good. And the ending of this film really just left an aftertaste I'll never forget. There's a lot of fire moments. Especially the party scene. I love the party scene of this, especially. It's really memorable. And then in the following year, 1962, he made a film of his I've not seen, but I know I can't say, but people generally say it's one of his best, but it's called L'Eclisse. I think it's just a downfall romantic story, but I'm going to have to save that for the right mood. I know it's going to kick eventually, but I'm not ready this time. 1964, he made Red Desert. This is one of the greatest films I've ever seen that just fits into the raw depths of alienation, feeling depressed, and just very detached from reality all around. I think that, again, Antonioni was very fascinated by nihilism, and this is just sort of someone's downfall from perhaps being in such a not a nihilistic state. Kind of how that happens in a very home-like setting. I think it's very ahead of its time in very many ways for what a lot of films would go on to do, 70s onwards. It's just very indie, more like how a breakdown can happen in little suburban elements rather than the big things you might often think when you're younger. This one's just a masterpiece of shot composition. Never really seen anything quite like it. Everything about it feels slightly gross. There's a kind of a gross quality. Makes me think of the movie Stalker. How there's just before they go to the zone, there's just all this ugly kind of landscape. It's just ugh, filth. It feels kind of filthy. And the home is just like this colorful, like kind of hidden place, but really isn't any, better as far as just not driving her completely mad. Oh, and this character is played wonderfully by Monica Vitti. Her name's like Uliana. It's like just a big existential crisis. Like the whole way through, she's just kind of having this mental breakdown. All these little things that just seems very insignificant disturb her mind internally, and she's just always anxious, like always in an anxious state. You can tell that she's subconsciously searching for a true connection with other people, but there's like a certain tragedy to the fact that she never really does. It's very gloomy, but very memorable. I feel like it'll grow on me even more if I rewatch it. Because thinking about it, it was a really unique film. There's so many rich details. I've always seen that one once. I think Antonioni's such a detailed director. Like, it really takes time to absorb exactly where his mind's at. He's very ahead of his time in a lot of ways. Then we get over to, 1966, one of his absolute masterpieces, Blowup. This film just has some of the most memorable pacing. It's set in the swinging 60s London, and it really just feels like swinging 60s to me. Like, it really captures the atmosphere of London in 66. I just think of the environments and say, like, the album Revolver by the Beatles came out. Like, this is probably what the world looked like at that time, right before, like, a lot of that psychedelic breakthrough was coming through in a lot of ways. And here we just kind of watch the characters in London in their element. Every shot and angle just feels very serene, very sincere. So much visual beauty in it. Like, it really is just captivating. It's very loose the entire way through. I think Antonioni just has such a knack for loose energy that it's just so special. Like, it really, but the hangout is there's like a little bit of a subtle tension lingering over the air at all times too. And this is another one like how La Ventura is, where it's like an unspecified mystery is kind of hovering around it. But these scenes can sometimes just drift on and on, but I don't get tired of watching it. Somehow it's so detailed, and I'm so fascinated just by following this character, David Hemmings' character. Oh my gosh, he's amazing. He's a really unique actor and character in this film. But yeah, he's just walking, just hovering around in his day-to-day life, honestly. He gets into this weird mystery, but it's like he doesn't care about the mystery. Again, it's like he's just sort of more into the small, intimate pleasures. And I think perhaps what Antonioni is saying is like all those small, intimate pleasures can, lead to a great imagination, but the detachment is a factor as well. He kind of wants us to grasp the detachment that can come with, our pleasures, our own personal nirvanas and delight. Again, it's like the English countryside is just fantastic in this film. The layers and details are great. And one of my favorite parts about David Fleming is like he just kind of has this endless curiosity looming about him, not about the important things, but about unimportant things, literally. But it's so fascinating somehow. Sometimes he does like art and stuff, but like it seems like he's a bit of an asshole at the same time. But I love it's still a really great character. But ending of this one is absolutely perfect. Yeah, it really I think symbolizes exactly what the 60s were all about in a lot of ways. Nihilism, the revolution behind it all. It's all so fascinating and very thought-provoking. And then we get to, this could rise up to beat La Ventura in time because I'm realizing the importance of this film. Zabriskie Point. This came out in 1970. So this came out, about 4 years after Blowup. So, and I'm just so fascinated by the story of what Antonioni experienced after making Blowup and making Zabriskie Point. I think he had explored like a lot of this, kind of hippie psychedelic thing, revolutionary thing happening in England. So he came to America, I think, to just kind of see how that impacted America. I think he just spiritually wanted to know, and he was haunted. Like, I'm learning that a lot of like artists in the 60s did not like how America was impacted by the 60s in a lot of ways, and I think it's so interesting. Like, he kind of has this sort of eye for, I guess, just like a lot of little intimate details. And this film is out to kind of, it feels like it's a little bit like, I want to get out of here, but I'm also too fascinated, kind of thing. I would describe it as like a bit of a nervous breakdown unfolding in a very epic way. And this is just like a lot of madness. I feel like this film is trying to express, I think too much madness might have arose in a lot of American, aspects. I mean, it's just slightly, I guess a slightly more raw state and place to be in. But this film just has really fleshed out characters the entire way through. I absolutely love the slow pace of this film. Just the way the story gradually unfolds as it explores what a lot of hippies were really looking for, and maybe like the aimlessness of it too. I think that's what he might have seen as an issue also, like too much of a, but he kind of saw it in London too. I think he was kind of seeing that in America might have just done it a little bit harsher maybe. But just like a bit of I don't care anymore kind of nihilism. Man, it's a great film though, and I highly recommend it. It's so underrated. It was very heavily criticized when it came out, which is because I think it was just a bit of an angry and abrasive film. It's not as subtle like his others. None of his films are really like. It's like they're subtle, but they're not. But they're also kind of like straightforward in what it blunt in what it's trying to do in a sense. Like the expression of nihilism, I think, is very blunt. And I really love the scene in this film with the song by Pink Floyd, "Careful with the Axe, Eugene." It just really kind of displays everything the film's saying in the most perfect way possible. But yeah, it's a very deeply layered film. I think about this film almost every day, so it's perfect. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is a film he did in 1975 called The Passenger. I thought this was pretty good. This was it kind of felt very still too slow in moments. It was great to see him work with Jack Nicholson. Ironically, it didn't really turn out to be a favorite of his. The ending is fantastic, though. That was almost strong enough to alone make the whole thing worth watching at least once. But yeah, that's about all I got to say about him. I know he's got a couple other films in there that I probably should have mentioned, but I just haven't seen them yet or haven't read too deep into them yet. But I will in time. So yeah, hope you enjoy.